Hello, everyone, and welcome to our monthly webinar. My name is Justin Cooper, and I'm a hard money lender and full-time real estate investor. Each month, we bring in some of our friends in the industry to share their expertise. Now, this may be through a presentation, like when we talk about self-directed IRAs or title insurance, or we may simply interview our expert friends and dive deep into how they got started, where their investing has taken them, and what they see coming, both for themselves and for the industry. And I also want to say thank you to everyone who made it to tonight's event. We know that you're giving up some of your time, so Mike and I will do everything we can to bring you the value that you're hoping for. This webinar is brought to you by Pine Financial Group. Pine Financial is Colorado and Minnesota's premier hard money lender. Pine focuses on the needs of Colorado and Minnesota real estate investors. We are investors ourselves, and we know what it takes to get deals closed. Everyone at Pine Financial Group is dedicated to the success of its clients. We only experience success when our clients are succeeding. So we have a habit of telling you when a deal should not be done. And isn't that what you want from a professional in the industry, especially someone that you trust as an advisor? You will benefit from our honesty and integrity when you choose to work with us. Now, if you're in Minnesota, this coming weekend, Saturday, November 11th, will be our Real Estate Investor Success Summit. This is the premier real estate investor event, and we're expecting over 200 attendees. We'll have local expert investors, speakers, local vendors, an expert panel, and of course, the networking happy hour at the end of the day. Best part is there will be zero sales pitches. If you're not yet registered, please go to www.mniss, that is in MN, Minnesota, and ISS, like Investor Success Summit.com to register. Now, tonight's webinar brings in a longtime friend and investor, Mike Jake. Mike is one of Colorado Springs' largest residential property buyers. His companies purchase houses to wholesale, retail, and hold for rental purposes. He's also one of Colorado's leading experts on residential real estate investing and a nationally sought-after real estate educator. He started investing in real estate in 2000 and in 2003 created a business of buying, selling, and managing single-family real estate. Mike has completed over 700 transactions in Colorado Springs as a principal and continues to buy 3 to 10 houses per month without going to banks or using traditional lending. Mike, can you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself before we dive into tonight's interview?
Sure. Well, a former resident of Ohio, born and raised, and moved out here to Colorado in the late 90s, riding the information technology wave. I kind of, after an extended career in college, I got into information technology and came out here just to play in the mountains. Had a college roommate bring me out here and just fell in love with the mountains. And when the opportunity was there, I moved out here and had the slow and steady buy some rentals. Based on just a plan that a really good friend of mine had. But the IT wave kind of crashed, and that kind of pushed me a little more serious into the real estate. It's been a hell of a ride ever since.
Awesome. Well, tell us a little bit about what you're doing today. How are you making money in today's market?
Well, we still do. I'm still doing some fix and flips, but we're working really hard to not do as many. I mean, as earlier this year, we probably had somewhere between 15 and 18 in the hopper, which was a little nuts for us operationally. And we're really, really diving back on that right now, really trying to not be as hard charging in the marketing department and just kind of enjoy a little bit more of the fruits of our labor. Over the years, we built up a huge rental portfolio. So basically, we have passive income from the rentals. And occasionally, some of the rentals we'll basically just sell them. If we've we're sort of going from a portfolio of this size down to this size, and basically using basically selling them, realizing the profit, and paying off debt to basically lower our management and increase our cash flow by paying off the debt on other rental properties. So.
Gotcha. So you're narrowing your portfolio of however many with mortgages and debt on them. And as you're selling those, you're taking the profits, rolling them into the other properties, paying off those mortgages. So you're having free and clear.
Yeah, we're basically going from a leveraged portfolio to a free and clear portfolio.
Awesome. How long do you think it'll take you before you're there?
I mean, I still pick up some rentals. So it's sort of like you try to find the sweet spot where you've owned it long enough, you've got a big enough paycheck, but the property isn't worn out in the sense that it's going to be a rehab. Sometimes you miss the mark, and gets a little worn out. You got to put a lot of capital in it to get out of it. But a lot of the properties we have are in good condition. We can just put them on the market. It's very easy to sell right now, and we also do try to sell some to our tenants. We have 3, 4 right now that we're trying to sell to the tenants and avoid the commissions, closing costs, and all that kind of stuff.
So are those set up as lease options or rent to own, or you're just trying to, instead of selling it on the market, sell directly to them?
We used to only do rent-to-own management, and my experience is it never really goes as well as the numbers imply. So over the last few years, we've really transitioned to we qualify all our tenants as a really good A-caliber tenant. And basically, what we found sometimes is getting less money, meaning not getting the option consideration, not getting premium market rent. You actually get a better tenant who takes better care of the property, and your overall return on investment is higher. And if they're a better quality tenant, they're probably already much closer to getting qualified than the tenant buyer. So, I know some people that works well. We really ran that model for a long time. To some extent, it did work, but we like the stress level is better with the tenant caliber that we have now. Just a lot less headaches in the rent collection department.
Interesting. So obviously you guys manage your own portfolio, right?
We do, yes.
So what transitioned, what changed in your vetting of the tenants to find that higher caliber? What are you guys doing differently now than you were before?
Well, let me back up. Back in 2003, when we got going, I mean, there was subprime financing. It was easy to get a loan. A lot of people were buying properties. So I was less experienced. I hadn't been, there's somebody I typically recommend often if you're going to own rental properties. His name's David Tilney. He teaches a management class. I didn't know who he was. I was book and tape junkie. And, a lot of what was taught about management was, just, offer rent to own, and you can sidestep a lot of those management hassles. And that's not the case. So you still have to qualify them. And but back then it was harder to find a good tenant. So at least if we weren't going to get a good tenant, at least we had some skin in the game via the option consideration. So it went well for a newbie investor, and we did sell some of the properties, but you get a lot of turnover. And basically, nowadays I kind of use the buying a car example. If you have really good tenant, or if you're a really good credit borrower and you go buy a car, you could buy this model car and pay the lowest payment possible because you have good credit, you're a good borrower. You get a D quality borrower, the same car, same options, same purchase price, they're going to have a payment that's significantly higher. Same car, 2 different payments based on the caliber of the borrower. So think about that with your tenants. If you're trying to get a super premium for your rent, who's willing to pay that? Theoretically, it's only going to be the person that has the questionable credit.
Right.
Okay, the person that has a credit, they're not going to apply. They're going to go find a better deal elsewhere because they know as soon as they put an application in, somebody's going to probably take them because they're a desirable tenant, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So ultimately, the person with the crappy credit, it's the buy here, pay here a lot. They got to go put a GPS tracker and collect the car every couple of weeks. Other things are more important than paying on the car. So ultimately, you don't want somebody in your property that a flat tire is a financial catastrophe for them. So we qualify them a lot more stringently. Again, I'm a slow learner. I've taken Tony's class like 3 times, and we finally kind of slowly installed all of his course into what we're doing, and it just as we've evolved, it just gets a lot easier, a lot less pain in the butt factor, and I mean really it gets pretty streamlined. And my wife really just oversees it, and we have Nancy, who we've taken to, who's our assistant. She oversees the bulk of the property management. We've taken her to that class so she kind of understands our philosophies of
Right.
what we do and why we do certain things, and why we want to pick the right person up front for the job.
Yeah, it's kind of the nature of those classes. Just as you evolve as an investor, right, and as you're growing, you can go to the same exact class or the same exact seminar, whatever it is, and each time you go, you'll learn more. Especially so many of these classes and seminars and gurus have 3-day seminars. There's so much information in 3 days that it might be worth going to the same exact thing a couple years in a row, because each time you go, you're going to be picking up something different.
Yeah. Well, I got, duped into my first seminar was, kind of a book author, and, they did that every 6 weeks. They were in Denver, 3-day event. And that was the first seminar. And I drug my wife along to that. But the beauty was I could reattend that seminar. So, I mean, every time we go, about every 6 weeks, we do that little 3-day weekend. And it made a huge difference, just hearing the same stuff over and over. You're a little different person every time you hear it, and you've kind of made you've made some decisions, you move forward in your business, and then you kind of hear it again. And often it was different speakers every time, so you get a little different perspective every time we went to the class. And it's definitely beneficial. I'm a big proponent of spaced repetition learning. I mean, if you got a good book, I mean, read it a couple of times. You get more out of it every time you do. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So you mentioned you have an assistant. So is it just the three of you in the business, or are there more of you?
There's 4 employees of our companies, myself, my wife, Nancy, and then we have Sharon. And Sharon is very part-time. She's a retired businesswoman who was incredibly bored, and just kind of a mutual friend. And she supposedly was going to go get a job as a Walmart greeter because she was so bored. And then, mutual friend put us together and said, hey, so I mean, she doesn't need to work. She doesn't need a job, but she likes, she likes to see what we're doing. And, she's sort of like having a business consultant on staff as well. Her and her husband used to have several businesses, and she's a pretty savvy woman. So, but she's willing to do whatever we need her to do. So she's cool.
That's great. And so you mentioned you're trying to do less fix and flips. I think that's kind of the opposite of most people out there today. They're trying to do more, find more. So one, how have you been finding so many deals? And then 2, why do you want to be scaling back the fix and flips and rehabs you're doing?
Well, I mean, one of my mentors said, when you can't go buy a property at the same basis that you bought the last one for, it's time to be a landlord. I mean, you can't buy in at the same price. There's less inventory. I mean, the market, I mean, as much as flips are fun, I mean, I like taking the ugly house on the block. But when you're competing against hedge funds and buyers that are bidding up prices, I mean, we are a for-profit business. And if there's not a profit in there, or, not a profit commensurate with the risk, then I'd rather not do it. I'll just sit back and collect rent checks. So,
So your deals are getting skinnier today? Is that?
Yeah, no, I think a lot of the flips are skinnier, significantly skinnier these days, as opposed to even a couple of years ago. So I've always tried to kind of, I mean, every year I've been in this business, is kind of along an arc of some capacity, and you're kind of always trying to stay ahead of the curve. And, in 2008, obviously what we did in 2007 wasn't going to work. In fact, that I was probably not as prepared as I should have been for 2008, but we survived that roller coaster. But it's have a diversification of what you're doing inside of the real estate space, and building passive income was always my goal, not flipping properties. I mean, flipping properties, again, it's fun, it's a great business, but it's not a sellable business for the most part. You're not going to sell. It's not like you've got a car lot or a dentist's office or something like that, where you have a business that you can sell to somebody else that can step in and run that. A fix and flip business isn't like that, but you have a pool of rentals. You can sell one of those assets, you can sell all the assets. I know investors that have literally sold off an entire block of rental properties to a hedge fund. So, I mean, you have options there. You can refinance, you can pull out money tax-free to reinvest, to take a year off, to buy more properties. I mean, you have every single option if you build that side of your business. Whereas flipping, if that's all you do and you're in a market like this, you're probably sweating, you're probably nervous, you're probably taking smaller margins, and you may or may not feel like you're working for your crews. So just to keep them busy so you don't lose them when the market turns around. So, these are just things I hear from other investors, and I'm like, hey, if I can't get a good margin, I'll just sit around here twiddling and doing other stuff. There's plenty of fun stuff to do in Colorado. So.
How's that working out for you as you're scaling back? Are you actually sitting
Yeah,
around,
yeah,
or?
I'm probably driving my wife a little nuts because I'm used to going horse ahead. We still have a decent amount of rehabs in the hopper, so I'm twiddling my thumbs more often than she is. So it's we're trying to get to that balance where we can both go out and have fun together. We met. We have a mutual love for the outdoors. We both ski, mountain bike, hike, climb. Do all kinds of outdoor stuff. We both moved here on purpose. So, and we've also, we bought another house out in the mountains. We like to go up there and play. So it's just, it's time.
Gotcha.
But kind of going back to the cycles, '08 was great. If you were an early adopter, you're probably buying at the auction or you're buying REO properties, and there wasn't a lot of competition because a lot of people went crash. So there was sort of a changing of the guards in '08, '09, and there was not a lot of competition doing that. It was really good to be a fix and flipper then. There was tons of inventory. It was easy to find. And the banks weren't playing highest and best games. If you were there, you were quick, you'd get the deal. And it's easy. And then, you go a couple of years into that cycle, and that wasn't easy. Now you got everybody's competing for the REOs. So we sort of started going to listed short sales. And when, the ball moved and people found, where the cheese went, they started going after that. So we started doing marketing. We found our own short sales. And we got a realtors to work those short sale for us, and we would be the buyer. So, and then when that started, when you're really hard charging, when you're really moving, you really see these trends happening in front of you. And I think that's sort of been a blessing, is being, fanatical and, and a deal junkie. You kind of see things happen ahead of other people, I think, to some extent. But, when the short sales started drying up, we started turning back on the direct mail knob. Started turning the volume up there. So we were, 2, 3, 4 years ahead of the curve in direct mail. So, that was like shooting fish in a barrel. And, right now, not so much. There's plenty of people doing those things. Plenty of people competing on the pay-per-click level, direct mail. So you can compete. You can be a better operator. If you're getting started and you're building your business. If you don't want to compete, I compete differently by doing deals differently that other people aren't willing to do or don't know how to do. And, through the mentors that I listen to and learn from, I always learn how to do deals face-to-face with people and do creative real estate deals. And our entire rental portfolio, for the most part, I did some, what they call the BRRRs now. You have that lingo when I started, but it was basically you buy it, you fix it, you refinance it, and you rent the property out and you repeat. Mm-hmm. Now the rules are changed. Now you rent it and you wait for you have seasoning before you can refinance out, your short-term capital. But the gig's the same. You are using your credit, but you're creating equity, and you're using that equity so you don't have money stuck in the deal long-term. And I think that's a great strategy for anybody at any age to get started or build their business. And I probably, the people I listened to were very bank adverse. So that's sort of the route I went. And I learned how to do off-market transactions and not rely on banks. So that's kind of how I really blew up my rental portfolio. But I think that is a phenomenal tool. A lot of the rentals I've done have been taking over payments. They don't cash flow anywhere near as buying one, adding equity by fixing it up and refinancing it. Those are going to cash flow. So it's sort of 2 to 1. You need 2 of these low equity deals to equal 1 high equity deals from the cash flow.
Right.
So, there's a good balance of not everybody wants, a gazillion houses, because you've got to manage them. And if you don't want to manage them, you've got to build in a property manager. If you're going to build in a property manager, basically, is the low equity transaction going to afford, the property, the taxes, the insurance, the vacancy, the maintenance, and a property manager? If you're not playing that role, I would say in my market, not so much, but because we had our own in-house management, we built that internally, we were able to do those deals. We kind of hit a high water mark with my wife. She's like, okay, you've got your 100 houses. You can stop now. I'm done. So, a junkie's a junkie, right? So I started figuring out how to do self-directed investing, and I did, effectively did Roth IRA deals for IRAs, where I do the same kind of highly leveraged seller financing deal. I'd put a little bit of money in with my Roth, and I'd let somebody else own the property. Just came with a title flaw with my IRA. So they get to own it, they get the tax bennies, they get the joy of management, and my IRA sits there quietly and gets half the profit on the back end. And then that led to, so how do I pay for the management when I didn't? I gave up half the deal to get somebody to treat it like they own it, because they do own it.
Right.
So, and that went really well. And then I created a whole other company with a guy so we grew that company up too. And we have a portfolio rentals in there that I'm sort of halvesies on, but I don't have any management. So.
Gotcha. Very good. So when it came to, building your business and you have the employees, what did that process look like of onboarding them, and then more importantly, I think, defining who would do what? Obviously your wife is very important in the business. Sounds like she's the one, doing all the day-to-day stuff almost. But then you got some other folks. How did you come up with those different roles and responsibilities?
We are two principals in the company. We're both entrepreneurially running different sides of the business, and I try to stay out of her side, and she tries to stay out of mine, and we get along that way. So, but our first hire was obviously just a general assistant. That person needs to be a generalist, so you're going to hire a little differently for that. There's some great tests. In fact, like Colby. Colby test is a great way to figure out what kind of a wingnut you are as an individual. How do you operate, so you can hire somebody to fill in the gaps that you're not as good at.
Mm-hmm.
So, my first hire was an assistant. I had a few assistants before my wife said, she wanted to quit. She was a nurse practitioner before she did real estate, but she went to the seminars with me. She knew what the gig was, but she was still working I'd say 9 to 5, but it was more like 10-hour days as a nurse practitioner. So
right.
When she quit and joined, it was right after my assistant quit. So I was the chef, cook, bottle washer. I was doing everything at once. So She quit. She was my assistant for about a nanosecond before she, hired a new assistant to replace her. And she kind of took over operationally, dealing with the contractors and kind of, again, I would fill the funnel with deals, and then she would convert either to rental or to, fix and flip.
Gotcha.
If he hadn't been on board, I probably would have been a real lean and mean shop the whole time. Would have had a single assistant and primarily wholesale, and just been the wholesaler, and built my rental portfolio. To me, it was always about. Flipping was just a means to pay for the marketing, to get the phone ring, to do seller finance transactions.
Gotcha. Very good. So let's jump around a little bit here. Tell us a little bit about the best deal you ever did.
You told me you were going to ask that question. I thought a lot about it, and I just don't really go after home run deals. I try to stick in a small box. I like tract house, tract neighborhood. Denver has a different market up there, and there is a high-end market that we just don't have down here. So I just don't try to play that game. I don't try to go for home runs. I just shoot for base hits, and I try to load the bases.
Gotcha.
So, we've had some really good flips where you luck out and you just happen to buy it. Like right now, buying this time of the year, a lot of people aren't as aggressive at buying, so usually you pick up some good deals. And in our market, in the last 4 years, it's sort of like it's crickets until mid-January, and then it's crazy. It's like crazy all the way until school's out. And we get that big bump. We have less inventory, and we have more competitive bidding and bidding wars in that time of the year. So right now, I would take on more rehabs if they were of good caliber, but we're getting some rentals that we don't want to keep. We're putting them on the market, and we're going to get them. That's typically where we see the best margins. So,
Gotcha.
other than that, I try to do basics and be consistent.
Gotcha. So let's circle back. I don't know. I think maybe I asked it, but I don't know if we got the answer. How are you finding deals? It sounds like you do a lot of off-market stuff. Do you have an agent? Do you have 5 agents you work with? Are you doing direct mail, door knocking? How are you getting all this lead generation?
I work primarily with one agent, but I just don't. Dude, I don't want to run around doing a lot of analysis at this point in my career. I just don't. I'm sort of lazy. So I don't do a lot with the MLS. I have built up a large network. A lot of agents know who I am, what I do, and how I do it, and I'm willing to solve problems other investors aren't. So I'll get the occasional call from a list, and agents know if they bring me something, I'll take the ugliest house on the block. I'll solve problems that other people won't necessarily solve. Like for instance, the street I live on, we bought a hoarder house. And it was, this woman needed 30 days after close. We didn't do a rent back or anything. It was just like, okay, you have 30 days to come to grips that you got to leave all this crap in your house. So I mean, it was a nasty mess when we got it.
Yeah.
But effectively, I didn't really have any other competition in that because the listing agent knew me. I listened to her. I said, the price wasn't as big as she needed time. She needed the ability to deal with her belongings and basically figure out what she was going to leave. And ultimately, she left most of the crap there anyway, so we had to get rid of it. But it wasn't a bidding war. It was a relationship that got me in there. So those relationships have always been probably about 30% of my business every year has always been from my own network, personal network. Outside of that, I've always been an aggressive marketer. I got started doing off-market deals. Those aren't listed, so you're always mailing letters, you're sending postcards, nowadays you're doing pay-per-click or Facebook ads, things like that. So there's a lot of neat things you can do right now to make your phone ring outside of networking. But networking is always the consistent thing. Do right by others, and they'll bring you deals over and over again.
Gotcha.
The average realtor, you're either going to work that model hard. Like, there's some wholesalers that work that model hard. They're either there the first, or they're there last, or they wait for things to fall apart, but they're very aggressive. They're writing a crap load of offers day in, day out, go, 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 go. And that works too. But that's not my game.
Gotcha. I
typically have people calling me, and then from them we'll figure out how to look at the house. We typically make multiple offers on the property. And basically try to, how do we make our sales stand out? How do we listen better than the next guy or gal? How do we really identify what the real problem of the situation, and look for a more creative solution than just, here's a cash offer, take it or leave it.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. That's so important, is just listening to their story, right? I mean, when you're just walking through the house, if you've done some direct mail and it's gotten the phone to ring and you make that appointment and then you're walking through and get to know the seller, right? And find their pain points. Why did they pick up the phone, right? Is it because they actually need, $200,000 tomorrow? Or is it because, they're going through a divorce, right? There's a bankruptcy.
200 grand represent, what is that what other need is that going to fulfill?
Exactly.
And sometimes they don't need that. I'll give you an example. There's a property we bought last year. Super hot market. This is a brick ranch in what I call a buy and die neighborhood. Like, you don't get a lot of turnover. People buy in these areas and they just never leave. And this was an estate property. There were multiple heirs. And, they kept talking about a cash offer, but it finally boiled down to they didn't want a cash offer. One of the heirs, for whatever reason, did not want to realize the impact of that sale for 4 years. So I never really got the clear answer to that, but it came out over a conversation. Walking through the house was just a means to start up a conversation.
Right.
And, so anyway, we we bought that house at a higher price, but we bought it with 0% seller financing. And, he wanted paid off at 4 years in 1 day. I didn't want to do anything less than 10, and I think we settled around 8 years.
Gotcha.
So I paid a premium, but I've got a great rental property. I've already got a tenant who's just a tenant. We qualified him as a good tenant. They want to buy that home, and they want to buy it the day after we're able to sell it and pay off these people.
Right.
So, but basically, I'm paying, I don't know, $1,100-$1,200 a month. So $1,100-$1,200 a month is coming off my principal every single month.
Yeah.
So we're creating a monster equity spread, and basically I'm going to eliminate the sales cost because we will be selling it to the tenant. They're very eager to purchase it, and we were able to meet, the tax needs of the estate that was selling. It was really one of the heirs that had some kind of tax situation where they didn't want to realize that money. So we still got a great deal. Everybody wins. And, you're out solving a problem. I mean, we became the obvious solution.
Yeah.
Not just one more guy putting a competitive bid in there.
Right. So, exactly. You're actually listening to the needs of the seller and structuring your offer to meet those needs. Absolutely. Sure. So what about a time where things didn't go as well as you hoped or thought? You didn't hit the single, right? Maybe it popped out. Talk to me about, maybe one of your worst deals or a time you failed.
Buying outside my box. Like there was a little property downtown. I don't usually buy turn of the century properties. I just don't like them. But this one, wow, this is a no-brainer. And I should have been nervous when my first offer was eagerly accepted. And when I went to look at the property, the seller was parked in front. I parked in front. And when we had this property on the market, everyone's like, well, where do you park? Because there's kind of like a turn lane started in front of it, like you park in front of the property. But everybody was nervous, like, I don't think you can park there. I'm like, park there. Everybody's parking on the street. It's like, just because right in front of that there's a turn lane doesn't mean you can't park there.
Right.
So anyway, it got to be a big deal. And on top of that, it was a lot of things that I wasn't used to looking for on a turn of the century property. That ultimately we had to hold it longer. We had to go back. We did one level of rehab because I thought I could just basically sell it, with a kind of a paint the carpet, and somebody would want it as a good deal, meaning I wasn't trying to get top dollar. And it turned out we had to go in and redo a whole lot of things, and we lost a couple bucks on that one. So
yeah.
So again,
so turn of the century, you're not talking about like 1999 into 2000. We're talking about like 1899. Yeah, I've done a couple deals at that age, and it's a can of worms. There's so many other things going on in those houses.
I used to always be a wholesaler, and I mean, when I get the property that doesn't meet my box, there's somebody that knows how to solve those problems, and I've always been a wholesaler, and I violated my own rule there, and I paid for it. So. Yeah. Sometimes even as an experienced rehabber, in that particular case, I didn't know what I didn't know. So if you're very new, do something easy. You know what I mean? If you've never rehabbed a house, maybe the best thing to do is don't buy a rehab, buy a rental. Buy a sweat equity rental. It's easy to learn how to paint carpet, and when you start having rentals, you'll find a good furnace guy, you'll find a good HVAC guy, you'll find a good plumber. But you're solving small problems one at a time, and you're kind of building your knowledge base on what things really cost. And you're not learning the hard way by taking on a project that you think just because some spreadsheet you got at some seminar, that was put together 10 years ago, and the material costs have no relation to what reality is nowadays at Home Depot. But that is the beauty of working with, somebody like yourselves, an experienced hard-money lender that's going to say no before you get yourself in that position. But I personally see a lot of people that nobody told them no. They just lent them the money and, waited for them to fail and take the property away from them. So
yeah, exactly.
It's unfortunate, but that happens. So
yeah, there's certainly a steep learning curve, and I tell newer people that all the time. You don't know what you don't know. The only thing we know about that is it's going to cost money, right?
Yeah.
There's going to be a learning curve. You're going to make mistakes. Something wrong is going to happen. So if you don't have a cushion, if you don't have some money, to handle and absorb that, you're going to get yourself in trouble.
Yep. And I mean, flipping, you've got one exit strategy for the most part. Usually, if you're new, you're not paying cash, you're using some type of a hard money. There's a short fuse on that, so it's the hardest type of a transaction. Yet, so many new people are drawn to that,
Hmm.
and that's unfortunate. It's way better to go out and do a sweat equity, buy it, fix it, rent it and refinance it, and that kind of thing. Build your rental portfolio, build your passive income streams. I think is a safer way to get started, and kind of use your, if you're still working a job, find your bliss in that. If you want to get out, I mean, you're just fix and flippers work just as hard, if not harder, than people do it at a regular job. They just don't realize that. It looks great. The TV shows make it look sexy. I mean, but until you have people helping you, you have staff, it's crazy. You're trying to do 10 different jobs at once and manage that like you're starting a business from scratch, and that's often new for people. I mean, it was for me. I mean, I wouldn't have, I think I mentioned earlier, I probably wouldn't have been a fix and flipper had my wife not been on board, and I could kind of, have somebody that didn't have to focus on the other side of the business that could run that and make that their entire focus. So,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you can't be an expert in everything, right? In the lead generation and the lead conversion and managing and running a fix and flip and putting together your scope of work and staging it and selling it. Like, you're not going to be that expert. But so many
yep.
people try to be by trying to be that one man show. And it's not as easy as, as exactly like you said, like the HGTV shows make it seem.
Sure.
Yeah. So, well, let's jump back over to today. So what is one thing that's really exciting you about your business today?
The plan paid off. I mean, I've always been about building the passive income streams, and we're there. And the rental portfolio is really, I think, the means to the end. And flipping is just, it's fun. It's great for the community. It's great for the neighborhoods. It's great for comps. But at the same point, you're always going back and trying to find the next one, unless you're doing something to convert that into passive income. Take your profits, figure out a way to put it into, convert it to passive income, and slowly build your passive income streams. Because over time, that's going to be life-changing money, and that's your real freedom. Whereas a fix and flipper always has to go out and hunt. You're constantly having to hunt, or you have to build a team that goes out and hunt, and you have turnover in those teams. I mean, ask me how I know. Been there, done it. I mean, so you've got to understand the bed that you're making, and again, I think it's one part of your business. Don't make it the only part of your business. Learn if you're an active fix and flipper, learn how to buy, fix, and hold. Even if you're not going to manage it, get a good property manager. Don't take the first one. Don't take a friend. Get several references. Find out somebody that's owned rental properties for 10 years or more, and has something good to say about a property manager if you're looking for a resource. But it's like anything. Like, I didn't know how to buy a house when I started, but I took classes. I bought a course. Landlord is the same thing. But a lot of people mistake and think, oh, that's like some ingrained skill that we all have, and that's the problem. That's why there are nightmare stories about tenants, toilets, trash, and people are scared to death. But when you really do it right, it's a beautiful business, and that's where all the wealth is really created in this business.
Yeah.
It's going from a short-term deal, converting it into a long-term deal, building your passive income streams, and these tenants are like employees. You hire the right one, they stay with you a long time. Our average tenant stays over 4.5 years.
Wow.
And that's including a lot of our portfolio is turned over. So we have some of that average is lowered by the fact that, we haven't even owned the houses that long.
Right.
So, ultimately, that's kind of life-changing stuff. I mean, I know a lot of flippers are sort of sucking wind right now, and, if they sort of, over the last few years when the getting was really good, if they kind of stacked away a few of those rentals, they've been in a better position. So,
Yeah.
especially
Yeah,
Denver,
I've
you
talked to
got
a lot
market
of
that's
folks.
just so exploded way ahead of ours. Like, sell one rental, you own 2 years and take a year off. They've gone up like rockets.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I definitely hear that from folks. They're kicking themselves for not holding more of those flips they did a couple years ago or over the past several years.
I have a little journal of things notes to myself for the next market, like, we came out of that recession, and it was, why did I flip so much of that stuff? I should have been better prepared to buy, fix, and refinance those things.
Yeah.
I did a handful of seller finance with 0% financing. Why did I do more of that? I didn't do 2, 3x or 5, 10x of that side of the business.
Right.
Have that more houses free and clear that much quicker. But you live, you learn. But don't plan on wasting as much of the next downturn.
Gotcha. Yeah, exactly. So what do you think is when is the next downturn coming? Any thoughts on that?
I don't have a crystal ball. I was wrong about the last. I mean, I would say it could be any time. I mean, you don't know what's gonna trigger it. Increasing rates. I don't know. I mean, I think the front range. I think we've got a beautiful recipe going on right now. We have job growth. We have population growth. We have a shortage of housing supply. I mean, it's good to be somebody with a house for sale. It's good to be somebody with a house for rent. So, I mean, I think it is a good time to be in our niche. Yeah. But I also think it's one of the most competitive times ever in this niche. Like, the competition is much better trained and a much higher caliber than we've ever seen before. Doesn't mean there's still newbie investors out there. There's still seasoned I guess people like myself, but there's institutional money out there that we're competing with that we don't even know. They're at the auctions. They're buying from the MLS. I mean, I had a fix and flip that we got a cash offer from an investment fund out of Chicago.
Really?
A cash offer on a fix and flip. Like, okay. So I don't know what the business models are of all these funds, but that particular fund has purchased over 50-some properties in our county that they're entitled. So they're clearly, there's money behind it somewhere. But you and I aren't going to go out and pay retail for a fix and flip, right?
Right.
So.
Yeah, interesting. So what kind of vision do you have for the future, both personally and in general, about real estate investing?
I'm just, I'm trying to transition. I did when I got, I don't know, back in 2005, I think I started doing a mentoring program, and I ran that through, I don't know, maybe 2011. But we were doing so many flips back then, it was hard to do two things well, so I kind of shut it down. And now I'm not doing the flips, so I started, doing a little more mentoring, and I'm kind of really enjoying that. And I don't have to complicate my wife's life. I can, work wherever I want to work. It's just a different. I mean, I'm a deal junkie, so it's just like I get to work deals just for other people, and some of those I'm participating in some of those deals with my Roth IRA or my other IRA to some capacity. So it's still fun for me, but I'm not complicating my life. And our goal is just really, be able to do more of the things we started this business for. Is just enjoy life. Spend more time in the outdoors, have more fun. So I'm still figuring it out. I don't know. I mean, I love the business. I don't want to retire, but I want to, kind of do deals in a little different way. Like I would really like to focus on growing my self-directed IRAs. I mean, that's fun, and it makes you think about solving problems differently, and that's kind of fun for me. So.
Yeah, gotcha. Very good. Well, we're starting to wind down, so we've got a couple quick hitter questions here, and sure. Maybe more quick hitter for me, maybe not for you, but that's fine. So what is the best advice you've ever received?
Well, this book changed my life. I mean, buy one house at a time. Stick with single-family houses, a simple investment. Don't overcomplicate it. Build passive income, build it slowly. 10 years will change your world. And I mean, 10 years from now, you'll be 10 years older anyway. You're either going to have a buttload of passive cash flow, or you're not. So John Schwab's book really had an influence on me way back. I did probably should have read it a few times earlier. But I figured, if I can buy one, a year, I can buy more than one a year. I can buy one a month. I can buy one a month. I can probably buy 2 or 3 a month. And I probably shouldn't have bought as quick as I had, but it worked out. Cash was cash flow. In 2006, I bought 36 rental properties. And I was saying that's the best time to buy rental properties. They all fell off a cliff equity-wise in 2008. But my cash flows slowly went up.
Right.
I only would have lost money if I sold them, but I didn't have to sell them.
Yeah.
So basically, over the long haul, that's been wildly profitable. Mistake, I guess, buying at the wrong time. I mean, I don't know if it was a mistake. It's like, who cares? If you buy it, and I mean, the idea is get in as light as you can, have the most return on investment. And I mean, John's book was buy it 10% below market, buy it with, seller financing, and basically, slow and steady, really. I mean, that's what wins the race. I mean, I'm in three masterminds, two official ones, and one that John runs. That we go, ski in Aspen for a week, and we ski all day, and share stories on the lift lines, and at night we kind of powwow, and it is a mastermind type of environment. But you see a lot of these late night TV guys, the book authors that pitch the pitchathons. Like, who's got a lifestyle that I really admire, and John has plenty of money. I don't think he'll ever get to spend it all, despite his efforts. He's been married a long time. His wife likes him. His kids like him. And he's got a great lifestyle. And that's, you can't admire all those qualities in a lot of people that are out there teaching. So, just following his model has been, sort of the best advice I ever got.
I like it. I like it. Can you share one of your personal habits that you believe contributes to your success?
Lifelong learning. I'm a junkie for buying books on Amazon. Audible, I think, is the greatest invention since sliced bread. Their app, you can buy audiobooks and listen to them at 1.5, 2.5, 3 times the speed. And if you train yourself, you can listen to that. So I mean, I constantly listen to real estate, business, motivational stuff. It's part of my day. It's part of my week. It's just part of what I do. And the good books, I try to re-listen to them a couple of times. If I'm on the treadmill, I like to live. This is my new favorite, Living with a Seal. So I listen to that one when I'm on the treadmill or working out. That'll motivate you. It's a great book, by the way. So I mean, if you look behind me, you see a lot of books and courses, and I've got 11 bookshelves in my house. So it's sort of one of my other mentors, Jack Miller, said a book is like a time machine. It took somebody probably a long time to put that content, get it organized, and you get to absorb all that other person's experience in a very condensed period of time. And now the ability to to use your phone and listen to it at a much rapid pace, that even condenses time even more. So
Yeah.
No, I mean that is definitely part of my life. Always has been. I'm a little in the car. Sometimes I listen to music, but I would say at least 50% of the time I'm listening to an audio training, or I'm listening to a real estate course or something like that, just to sharpen the saw.
Yeah, exactly. I'm the same way. It's either a podcast or it's an audio book. Absolutely.
Yeah, so many awesome podcasts these days too. Like, you don't even have to spend money. You can just,
I know it. I almost have I spend more time sitting in the car getting ready and choosing the podcast than I do actually driving some places. What was that name of John Schaub's book again? Building Wealth One House at a Time?
Yeah, if I can pick the book up. Building Wealth One House at a Time.
Perfect. John Schaub. Perfect. All right.
He sells good courses and a good seminar too. So I try to recommend him.
Awesome. Now, maybe you just mentioned this, but do you have an internet resource, maybe like a Dropbox that you are in love with and that you would share with our listeners?
I mean, I definitely use Dropbox. That's a game changer. I use Dropbox to share photos of properties with out-of-state owners. So they can really get a sense for what the property is. Like, I want them to see it, and I wish they could. Dropbox had a smell feature. So they could smell it before you start talking an offer. So they they need to see what they're dealing with, because in their mind it was as good as the last time they walked out the door, and
Right.
perfect condition. So Dropbox is great. I think Podio has been a game changer for us.
Uh-huh. And so what is Podio?
Podio is, you can get it for free, but we do so many things with it. We pay for it now, but it's basically a CRM where you can manage your leads. We started with Joe McCall sells a little set of apps. So you don't have to figure it out. You just buy these little apps, and it's kind of has all your inbound marketing, all your tracking, your follow-up. You can transfer it over to leads. You can put all your contact database. You can run your calendar in there. So basically, all my marketing, funnels in to Podio at some extent, and then basically it's very easy for the team to follow up. So that's been a game changer. When my wife figured out how to use it, or at least how to work it, she built we have a whole rehabbing app series that we've built out for our rehabs. So our contractors can get on their smartphones, and they have an app, so they basically have checklists via the Podio app, and we can give them access to just as much as we want to give them access to. We'll have a separate, rent ready app. So when we get rentals and there's turnover, basically everything's in Podio. So all our, we have our employees, but we have a ton of subcontractors. We have people do painting and touch up. We have people that do this, that, blah, blah, blah. They're all on speed dial. They all know each other, but basically now Podio is just a hub to getting all that work done and getting it all streamlined.
Gotcha.
So it's I think a lot of people in the real estate space now are using Podio. It's very customizable. It's easy to get people to integrate it. There's a guy named Dan Schwartz, maybe, I think. Investor Fuse is his product, and he's just completely pimped out like all the functionality of Podio and automated it, to the point where you can do, one-off mailers. You could put them in a follow-up mailing campaign. You could do one-off offers, right through the Podio app. It's pretty cool. It's not inexpensive, but it's
right.
We're having a lot more employees and a lot more, mechanical systems. It's just a brilliant tool.
Awesome.
So we're definitely use that a lot. So.
Very good. So looking back, what advice would you give yourself when you were just starting out?
Oh, I probably would say, a lot of my mentors early on were very kind of anti-bank. And I probably should not have held like such negative contempt for the banks. I mean, they're just one more tool in the toolbox. I should have kept myself looking good for a bank. Been willing to speak bank, built more banking relationships. But know that it's just one tool. It's not the only tool. You'll get way better financing from a seller than you'll ever get from a bank. And if anything should happen, you got one person that can renegotiate with you on the phone. Whereas a bank, you're dealing with the real nice and smiles until you sign your press hard and walk away from the closing table, and then it's like a phone tree, and you never get to talk to somebody live.
Right.
It's a different story. So, but when I started, it was sort of like, well, you can get 20 Freddie Fannie loans if you're married, or 10 single. So it was not like a business plan. But there are, one of the masterminds I'm in, man. There are guys that have really they've gone through that. They've taken it to the banking level, and there's portfolio. There are, mom and pops that are sort of resembling institutional investors that are, over 1,000, like, 1,000 to 5,000 units, or even more. That are just people. They're not Wall Street backed. They're just people that started. They kept themselves looking for. Like I did a presentation in this mastermind on seller financing, and they're like, "We had no idea you could do that." And I'm looking at them like, "I had no idea you could do that." To get that caliber, dealing with the banks. And so anyway, it's possible. And I just think it's one tool that I probably should have been more open to. So, I mean,
Interesting.
I've always had good credit. It was just, I'm not going to use it for that. I mean, I look back at some of the flips that I flipped them because, they wanted the cash offer. They didn't want the terms offer, but it was the right property to keep. And we didn't keep it because, I didn't want to do the buy it, fix it, refinance it model.
Right,
So
right.
I think that was a mistake.
Gotcha.
So, but, it
Very
still
good.
worked out.
So I was gonna ask if there was one book you would recommend, what would it be? Maybe you already did that with John Schaub's. Is there maybe another book you might recommend?
Definitely John Schaub's book. I mean, I think Bronchick has some really good books out. I think he's really good. And Bill Bronchick used to run the Colorado Association of Real Estate Investors. So when I was getting started, he was running it. That's how, they were the only. Now there's like 100 meetup groups, right?
There's so many.
The one place. And, Bill was always really good, I think, at making the legal aspects of investing understandable in English. And he, I think I've got all of his books somewhere. He's got, I don't know, one on creative finance, one on flipping, and, a couple others. And he's got some good courses too. Like some of his courses, they were like the first ones I bought. Lease option, creative finance. He's got great paperwork for Colorado. So they definitely helped me a lot. John, I got the business plan. Bill was like, give me the paperwork, so I got something I can operate from.
Gotcha.
So
Very good.
so definitely got a lot from him. But I mean, you pick a real estate book, I've probably read it. I mean, you should read them all. I mean, it doesn't mean you have to do everything they say, but like you're getting a lot of experience. You can learn as much from what people write about their failures as you can about what they did right, and figure out how not to make those mistakes. I mean, that's we're all going to make mistakes. I've made mistakes. I'm still making mistakes. I'm probably if you're not making mistakes, you're not moving forward. But minimize them and make the mistakes that aren't going to take you out of the game. I think that's important. So.
Yeah, exactly. Well, got a couple questions here from some of our listeners. We got a couple minutes left, so here's one from Bill. Is this a good time of year to be wholesaling?
It's always a good time to wholesale. I mean, if you've got, as a wholesaler right now, if you've got inventory, I mean, you get the keys to the castle. I mean, there's so few deals out there that, most of the wholesalers are wholesaling at a price that a picky buyer like myself will pay.
Mm-hmm.
People are buying them, man. I mean, they're selling. So, if you got the goods, it doesn't matter, man. You can put something out on the day before Christmas and probably find a buyer.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on the wholesale deals. I mean, as a lender, I'm looking at these things and just, amazed. But next thing you know, they're sending another email saying, "Hey, that property's gone. Quit calling." And so, yeah, it's amazing. If you just got to get out there and hustle, I think is the biggest thing, right? And that's how you're going to be finding the deals. So, do you have any vacation rentals, or do you have an opinion about them as an investment?
Do I have an opinion? Maybe.
On
Right now, I'm contemplating taking maybe 10 of our rentals to play that game. But I mean, I'll probably miss the mark because I don't have to do that game. I mean, I think it's a great strategy when you're getting started. You can build a business. I mean, there was a young kid that came to one of my. I run a meetup group in Colorado Springs, and kid came. He's got a fourplex unit in a questionable part of Colorado Springs, and he's crushing it. He basically turned a fourplex into a 4-unit apartment, a hotel. So I mean, he's near. I mean, I think he darn near tripled the rent roll on a fourplex by understanding, hey, he's not in the rental business, he's in the hospitality business. He really finished them out nicely, and he's very cognizant of meeting his clients' needs, and he's providing value. And I mean, I think, man, what an amazing business to build on top of a business that's been around a long time.
Yeah.
So I think that's amazing. And on top of that, people are learning they don't even need to buy them. They can rent them and then sublet it if they put that deal together. I mean, that's a great somebody like myself that's been in here long enough, and I'm like, yeah, it just seems like work. You know, you could probably make some good deals and really build a really strong cash flow. There's a couple of people, I met them at, I think I've met them at John's seminar, and I met them at David's seminar. They were ski bums up in Summit County, and they master lease properties for a spread, and then they master lease with vacation rentals. And I mean, they built a huge, you know, I mean, the recording I heard was probably a year and a half old, and I think they were over 20,000 a month in, you know, passive income from doing vacation and master leasing, and they don't own themselves. You know, they're making cash flow off other people's assets. I think that's thinking outside the box. And I think the VRBO is a great strategy. I mean, the things that concern me are, I mean, I have one on my street. It annoys me. It annoys the other neighbors, especially the ones right next to it.
Okay.
You know, I think the wear and tear is significantly higher. Like, you know, there's a park. When we walk down our street, there's a huge park down there. My wife and I walk in there all the time, take the dog for a walk, you know. And when there's turnover at the VRBO, it's never one trash can. It's like multiple trash cans, and there's a lot of beer bottles, wine bottles, you know, all that stuff. Like, people don't go there to like, oh, this is nice. They're there to have a good time. They're on vacation, and they're not necessarily treating it like even a tenant that would stay a long time. You know, they're in and out. I have some friends that do a vacation rental on a place up in Breck, and I've seen it, you know, the years before they did vacation. I've seen it after. There's a heck of a lot more wear and tear.
Yeah.
So you're you know, multiplying the rent factor, but you're also multiplying. It's another business on top of it.
Right. Yeah, and it's a very different business. So you have to make sure you're familiar with that. Absolutely.
It's a hospitality business. It's a, you know, basically you better control reviews. You better, you know, learn how to manipulate that environment, or, you know, they're going to put you out. The other side is legislation. You know, are you going to have it inspected? You know, some communities are going to basically make you have a business license, maybe pay different taxation on the property if you're going to do that. And other towns like Salida, if you didn't have your property registered by a certain date, you're done. They don't want any more VRBOs because they would take it away inventory from locals that are there to, you know, take care of the tourists coming in and out anyway. They can't, you know, people can't live there. There's no way to take care of the tourists anyway. So, anyway, I didn't want to build something up, so I haven't done it. That could potentially be legislated out from underneath me. But, I think it's a cool niche.
Very good. So who's your go-to motivational speaker, or is there more than one?
Zig Ziglar was definitely one of the first guys I listened to on cassette tape, if that dates me. But you can get a lot of that stuff at the library, and you probably still can. But again, now these apps, you know, Audible, you can get a lot of these old Nightingale 6 CD programs for like 1 credit on Audible. I think it's awesome. But Zig Ziglar, I think, is amazing. Jim Rohn is awesome. Those are 2 of my favorites. I think Darren Hardy, Darren's Daily little email. You can sign up on his email for free and get a little dose of, you know, he's a big student of Jim Rohn, and you know, he's kind of paying that forward. So free little email series, a little, you know, 3 to 5 minute motivational blurb in the morning. That's pretty cool stuff. But definitely Zig Ziglar and Jim Rohn are 2 I listen to pretty regularly.
Awesome. So maybe this will be our last question here, because I think we're about out of time. How can I buy one of Michael's properties?
How can you buy? I don't know. They make you the right price. I got stuff with tenants in there if you want it, or I'll pick them out if you want it. But I'm not distressed. I sell retail.
Fair enough. Well, Mike, I've truly enjoyed listening to your journey, and the stories you shared were inspiring. Give us one parting piece of guidance, share the best way we can find you, and then we'll say goodbye.
I mean, swiftresults.com is my website. I'm on Facebook, Michael Jake. I run the Colorado Springs Real Estate Investing Club. We're on Meetup. We're the largest Colorado Springs real estate meetup out there. And I do most of the teaching when I do that. We have lunch meetings, so you can connect on me on the Meetup site. You can connect me on Facebook. You can connect with me through Swift Results, or just you can call my office, or Google Swift Results. We're on Google Maps. You get the number.
Perfect. Well, Mike, thanks for being so generous with your time, expertise, and experience, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, thanks.